Hey everybody, welcome back to another String Tip Tuesday. Today we're going to look at how to change a grommet set on a racket. So first things first, you got to have the racket. You have to cut the strings out to change the grommet sets. They're held in place by the strings. You want to order your grommet set for your racket specifically. And then you'll need a handful of tools to complete the change. Let's see here. So you'll need a pointed awl to help you put the grommets into place. You'll need a blunt awl. I use that to push the grommets out and then to kind of do the final setting. And then you'll need some kind of cutter. I prefer this little like mini flush cutter, which allows me to get into those flared grommets and cut them smooth with the frame so that the existing grommet set will pull out. But prior to starting your work of cutting the grommet set out, you'll want to take the pieces, lay them out, kind of get the orientation on them. These don't appear to be directional for this racket. I already kind of checked it over. So laying them out, you just pick the two sides, the little throat piece, and your actual head guard piece, and just kind of lay them out on the table so they're there for you. You want to, before you start cutting, you want to ensure that this grommet strip is actually the one for the racket, because there are so many models of rackets that have such similar names and you could end up with the wrong one. So the easiest way to do that is just kind of turn your racket so that you can see the side, take the grommet strip, and kind of put it right beside it, and look to see if it appears the pattern on them is the same or very, very similar. So you may or may not be able to see this one. The side grommets kind of sit in the top grommet, so it's got that little channel there. Those channels match. So that's a good indicator for us. And then there are little ribs on these three channels up here that kind of determine which side of the grommet the string will set in. Well, there are little ribs on this new one as well in the same area. So I would say with pretty high confidence, this is the correct grommet. So what you're going to do, once you've determined the grommet is the correct one, you're going to use your flush cutters and cut off those pieces of grommet where they're flared so that they will come out of the racket easier. And then what I like to do is I take the blunt awl and find the bottom of the throat grommets and kind of push them out from the inside. And the reason you use your blunt awl for this is because you don't want to damage the paint on the racket. And your blunt awl should be smooth enough and round enough there on the tip that it's not going to do that. So you kind of loosen them up there on the bottom, and then you'll go up to the top and kind of do the same thing. So from the inside, push the first like 3 grommets that are holding that strip in place, and you'll kind of push them out. And then as you can see, you will have created a little kind of gap there and a little kind of gap there. What you'll do is you'll take your pointed awl, stick it in there, and just kind of wedge it like you would a pry bar to leverage those grommets out. And then just pull them out. Once they're out, they're throwaways. You're replacing all of those pieces, so no big deal. Same thing on the other side. You're going to leverage those grommets out. And then you're pulling them on out. And again, they're a throwaway. On the bottom, very often these interior grommets don't get a whole lot of wear. So you can leave them, you can change them, whatever. If I was doing this for like a college player and it's a quick grommet change because they beat up the head guard and we need to protect the racket, I'm probably doing multiple a year on them, and these interior grommets aren't beat up, so I may leave them in there and not worry about it. But since this is a recreational player and they took the time to buy a new grommet set to protect their racket, I'll go ahead and pop them out each time and replace those as well. And then your top set, you'll just kind of get under that loose edge that you created on this specific grommet and just pull them out all the way across the top. Now, you have a completely bare frame without grommets in it, as you can see. Start at the bottom. Tilt the frame up on in just to make it a little easier to handle for this. Get one of your outside edges in on the bottom there. If I can do it while I'm talking and holding it. Get one of your outside edges in and just kind of push on through. And they should slide right into place. They're kind of in there, but they're not wanting to go all the way through these grommets or these holes in the frame. So you may have to take your awl and give them a little extra persuasion. To get them to seat in there. These holes are very tight, even though everything lines up just right. They are still not going in super duper easy. And that varies racket to racket. Some rackets are much easier to replace the grommet set on than others. A few years ago, Babolat and Yonex made some directional ones, and those were very, very tough to replace the grommet sets on. But then you have companies like Wilson and like these Volkls that traditionally, I would say, are pretty easy to replace the grommets on because they're just a quick little, what I would call 4-piece grommet set where all you've got is the bottom, the two sides, and the top, and typically they slide right on in. I'm not entirely sure why this one's fighting me so. Having to push a little harder than I would like to get that bottom piece in. Now, it's got me wondering and hoping if that top grommet piece is truly the correct set for this racket. Use the side of the blunt awl here to push these tight so I'm not wearing out my fingers. And hopefully the rest of this grommet set goes in a little bit easier, because so far, even though this is traditionally the what I would call the easiest to replace grommet on a set of rackets, this one's giving me a little business here. So then I like to start with, typically I'll start with the top, but since this one has these little grooves that the sides have to fall into to get it in the right place, I'll put the sides mostly in place first and then hook it in and then continue on around. So let's go this side. I'll put it in. You just kind of work your way up the frame. And these, I don't know what was wrong with those throat, because these side grommets are going in nice. You slide the side grommets in, just keep pushing until they pop through the sides. As you can see, they're coming on through. And if they have issues coming on through, you can use the awl from the outside or the inside of the frame to kind of coax them in the right direction. And then you'll take your grommet strip. Like I said, with this one, you've got two big holes there because the last couple side grommets clip in there. So you'll slide those through the holes and push those on in. And that will secure your top grommet on this side. That'll give you like an anchor point, I guess you could say. And you can, if you want, there are many different methodologies for loosening up these top grommets. I don't typically do it. because I don't like the possibility of warping the plastic. But there are plenty of people that take these top grommets and they will dip them in some warm water to soften the plastic. What you see me doing right here is setting the racket down on a flat, solid surface so I get some counter pressure on the other side of those grommets, kind of rocking it in, because those were going in at kind of a funky angle that didn't really want to go. You can also take your heat gun if you have one, or your hair dryer if you or your significant other have one, and heat the plastic to make it a little more malleable so that you can get the grommets in the hole. And this may not have been the best video or best grommet set to use for this video, but you know, first opportunity this year with a grommet set to be able to show you the full process. So I figured I'd give it a try, but I may, from the way this is feeling and the fight back that it's given me, I may be pulling out the heat gun and giving these a little warm up to give myself a little stretch to make it a little easier to install them, which isn't something I traditionally or typically do. I don't really use the heat gun a whole lot. Now having to work each individual grommet in, going around the frame, using the awl from the inside to guide it to where it needs to be, and kind of rocking it back and forth to push them into place. The plastic on these Volkl grommet sets, man, this thing is tough. You're going to get to see the semi-difficult side of racket repair tonight. I've done, in my lifetime, between customizing and actual racket repair, I've done hundreds and hundreds of grommet sets, and I don't remember one fighting me like this and being this absolutely tough. I guess I am going to pull the heat gun because I'm tired of wrestling with it. And the key with the heat gun is to go quick and not overly hot. So this one has two settings. I'm going to go low setting, and I'm just going to hit it a little bit, see if it stretches enough to go in, hit it a little bit more if it doesn't, and just kind of work it real slow, because you go too much and you're going to melt the grommet set and it's just not going to be usable. But let's, all right, warm on the back of my hand. Give it a little heat here. Turn it off. See if that was enough to get us in business here, get us around the corner here and over the hump. Man, this thing is just tough. Again, between repair and customization, I'm doing 150, 200 grommet sets a year. And this is the most difficult one I can remember in a very, very long time. Between those bottom grommets and the inability of this guard to stretch at the top, which is not wholly unusual, but usually where a lot of people kind of heat them all and stretch them all, I just kind of get them in there. But this one's just not being friendly today. There we go, that's a little better. And again, the key with the heat's a little bit at a time. You don't want to overdo it and melt the grommets and make it so they're not actually usable. Get down here on the level so I can see it and press at the same time. Try to coax these in here. Jeez. Thought it was just the throat that was going to be awful, and then because the side went in just kind of right on it. Super easy, nothing to it on the side. But this this top grommet tried to whoop me. I mean, I am sweating right now. All right, side grommets going in because they have to connect to the top grommet. Go in from the bottom, seat them down the side. Make sure they're all the way through down here. About 2/3 of the way up. They decide they don't just naturally want to go into the hole, so they're going to need a little additional moving and coaxing and jiving. And we're going to get them in there. Use the awl from the outside to guide into the holes. Same thing up here, especially once we get to the top of this one. You'll use the awl from the outside to get it through because that plastic needs the extra stretch there on the end of that top grommet that was just so stinking firm. So, now that you have watched me mightily struggle with the grommet set, roll it a little bit more, make sure all those pieces are in and set nicely. And then, as I said previously, I'll take my blunt awl and push from the outside of the grommet set. Try to ensure that all of these pieces are set in there nicely. And there we are after the fight of my life with this grommet set. Grommets are changed out. I promise it's not as hard as I made it look this time. Just this Volkl bumper guard and the bottom piece had me on the struggle bus today. That was kind of a whooping. If you liked what you saw today, please like the video, subscribe to the channel so you'll keep seeing more of these tips and more of my videos. If you have any questions, comments, if you got any other technique that you use to make this work, please let me know in the comments down below. Like I said, I do a ton of these. I swear it's not normally this hard. Some of the grommets actually just kind of fall out of the rackets and fall right back in. If you remember some of the Yonex E-zones from years ago, the throat piece would fall out when you take the strings out, you throw it away, and then you have to dig through the trash can to find it. That's all I got for this String Tip Tuesday on grommet replacement. See you next time.